Your friend says that they just purchased a gorgeous piece of estate jewelry. You saw an article in your favorite luxury fashion magazine that says estate jewelry was trending. You heard from someone else that estate jewelry made a good investment. Hi, I'm Dustin Lemick, the CEO and co-founder at BriteCo Jewelry and Watch Insurance. In this video, I will be answering all of your questions on estate jewelry, whether you're just shopping for fun or for an investment. The estate jewelry definition is really straightforward. Jewelry that was previously owned is considered estate jewelry. Yes, I know, you usually associate estate jewelry with estate sales following the death of a previous owner, and you typically think of that as poor deceased owners having been quite advanced in age. However, estate jewelry meaning doesn't require that the previous owner has to be deceased or that the jewelry has to be of a certain age. You could very well have modern pieces that are technically estate pieces. That said, that's not the norm. Most estate jewelry is on the older side, and often estate jewelry did at one time belong to an owner who is now deceased. Just keep in mind that these are not hard and fast rules. Knowing all of the above, then it's easy to see the difference between estate vintage and antique jewelry. Vintage and antique jewelry have specific age requirements, whereas estate jewelry has a specific ownership requirement. You can find many pieces of estate jewelry that are also vintage or antique. Pre-owned jewelry from a specific era may very well also be vintage jewelry. Vintage jewelry is younger than antique jewelry. Most vintage jewelry dates back about 50 to 100 years. So today's vintage jewelry dates back as far as 1925, but not beyond, and includes jewelry produced as late as 1975. Antique jewelry is a jewelry older than 100 years old, so produced before 1925. Of course, this encompasses a lot of jewelry. There's jewelry from the Georgian era or the early 1700s to early 1800s with all of its delicate designs, a large majority which features nature-inspired designs. There's jewelry from the Victorian era with plenty of colored gemstones and romantic appeal. There's the arts and crafts era, aka the late 1800s to early 1900s, when the jewelry industry came under threat during the industrial age. Overlapping eras include the Art Nouveau era, which lasted from the 1890s to the 1910s, and the Edwardian era of 1900 to 1915, both of which offer uniquely artistic designs. Most recently in antique jewelry, there's the Art Deco era, and the Art Deco period lasted from the 1920s to the 1930s and features lots of geometric patterns and shapes. So how do you go about actually buying any of this jewelry? If you just want to purchase estate jewelry, your task will be super easy. You can find previous owners, estate jewelry at jewelry shops, antique shops, pawn shops, or via private sale. Just about anywhere that sells used jewelry, because that's the estate jewelry, what estate jewelry technically is. On the other hand, antique and vintage estate jewelry can be a little more challenging to find depending on what you're looking for. Unlike antique jewelry, vintage jewelry can sometimes be found at boutiques and local shops. So for example, if you're just interested in some vintage cocktail rings from the 1960s to the 1970s, you might find those at the occasional yard sale or thrift store. Suppose you want something from the Edwardian or Victorian eras, or even the Art Deco or Art Nouveau era. In that case, you'll need to do some serious searching online, as these pieces are very scarce. It is possible to find antique and vintage pieces on websites like Etsy and eBay. However, be careful to only buy from super reputable jewelers and thoroughly vet a piece before you purchase it to ensure its authenticity. If you can see a piece in person ahead of the purchase, that's always best. If not, ask the seller for videos and documentation they might have to affirm the piece's authenticity, like documentation of an appraisal, for example. To verify authenticity easier, consider studying a particular jewelry era. Become familiar with the hallmarks and designers of that age, know what to expect from a piece of jewelry so you can spot inaccuracies or inconsistencies that do not align with the time period. Beyond the exceptional quality and higher quality materials used in creating the jewelry, antique jewelry also has historic appeal and sentimental value. Additionally, as older designs have aged, pieces have become lost or irreparably broken, making the lasting pieces rare. Many prefer antique jewelry due to this rarity and the unique nature of a piece from potentially hundreds of years ago. When buying jewelry, it's most important to verify that you are purchasing an authentic piece that is worth the price the seller is offering. If purchasing a higher priced item, it's always a good idea to get as much documentation as possible to verify the piece's authenticity. Just like you might have jewelry insurance for your engagement ring or luxury watch collection, you'll also need insurance for your heirloom, antique, and vintage jewelry. Luckily, while it's not always easy to find your perfect antique or vintage piece, finding the perfect insurance policy to protect those pieces is. At BriteCo, we offer cost-effective, comprehensive coverage that protects your jewelry in the event of a loss, theft, or damage. Thank you for watching.